Hello, everybody. Let's start. My name is Yakov Fain. I work for the company called Farata Systems. We are doing different things, and recently we started to work with IoT, and we started to integrate devices that already exist out on the market into our business workflow. And this is, I will share our experience in how we do that with reasonable effort, so to speak. So, what is this slide about? We have a product. We are working in an insurance industry. And in that insurance industry, these agents who are our clients, they sell insurance. They come over to your house and they need to do some measurements, for example, like blood pressure, weight, and so on, to fill out the form. We also create another application that's about to be released where consumers can find the agent. So basically the whole idea was, how can we integrate the consumer devices into our existing workflow? So agents who are our clients, so to speak, can automate their processes. So what are the things in the Internet of Things? Of course, since you are here, you already know, but basically they are sensors. They are sensors which may also be connected. So in this slide, I wanted to show you that there is something disconnected over here, right? So there's a rain, and the irrigation is on. So something is wrong. This is a standard sensor. I have irrigation in my home, and it came with a sensor. It got broke pretty simple, so I've seen similar pictures very often. Now they want to create the sensor that will connect to weather.com, and based on that, will turn it on or turn it off. It's better to believe that you have a rain in your area. In the mid-90s, I also was working on the application that was doing telephony. Back then, if you remember these pay phones, back then, people who owned businesses, they could rent a payphone, install it in their pizzeria, for example, and they would get some commissions from people making calls. And we've been working at creating an application that would automatically detect if the receiver is cut off, if the coin box is full and it's time to go out. So technically, this was Internet of Things back then. We've been using different protocols, but the idea is the same. I remember that time, and to be honest with you, I was not happy with what I was doing, because we were trying to figure out these telephony's bits, what bit number 5 means when the signal comes in, and there was a special protocol and so on. So it's not fun, and I still now I don't want to go into this space. So of course there are some of you who would rather program hardware, but it's not me, definitely. The other thing is that it changes so often. And of course, what was there in the mid-90s is absolutely different now. Look at this thing. It's today device. This device you can buy today. I found it recently, and I purchased it. I will buy it, of course, for myself. This device, they call it Google of Physical Objects. It's called SIO. So it's going to be shipped in March, and you can point it at any product technically. In this case, they pointed at Apple, and you can point it at the medication. You can point it at anything, and it'll give you chemical components, ingredients of the device. It's a spectrometer, right? It's a spectrometer that you can buy for $250 in stores. Okay, 1 second. I need to turn this off, the mirroring. So, and also it comes with the, it also comes with, 1 second. It comes with the software development kit. How do I go back? Sorry. So I need to turn it off. I'll turn it off, so maybe it'll go away. So, meanwhile, let me tell you. So basically, every device that comes to the market today is offering you something that you can use on your device. Like in case of spectrometer, what you can do, you can use that device. You can use the iPhone or whatever smartphone you have, and then what you can do, you can use their server. So there are three components basically. I don't know, guys, how do you turn this thing off? Okay, it's gone, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, it's gone. All right. So this is something that exists today. And people can purchase the software development kit and start writing program for it and integrate it in whatever applications they want. Now, the other device that exists on the market today, this NAVD. It's a little box that you can put on the dashboard of your car, and that device communicates with your phone that is sitting on the next seat. And you can talk to the device, and it has a nice projector, so it projects into this little panel, so you don't need to divert your attention from the road. You look at it, and it sends you messages. So again, device plus a smartphone plus some server. Whose server is that? It's a server of whoever created this device. What I'm leading to that we have pretty much similar setups pretty often. Wearables. I've been using this Fitbit wearable for the first time I lost it, then my little puppy ate it, and these wearables are different. So look at this guy. So it's stretchable wearables. It'll be attached to your skin like a tattoo, and it'll work. They call it epidermal electronics, and it'll work and send signals and receive signals and everything. So we are getting there one way or the other, but always we have similar components, like I show on this slide. Component number one, a device, whatever you pick, a consumer device. Their server. So device talks to the server. Regardless if you are a developer or if you are not, these devices are created for consumers, so you can log into the server and you can record your weight or blood pressure or whatever else you want, how many steps you made today, and so on. So that part is clear. The smartphone. The device talks to the smartphone, which has an application installed. Who created this application? The vendor of the device. If you don't want to use the device, you can connect from your computer to the website of the vendor, but typically we have a device that talks to the server and that talks we have a smartphone that talks to both, to the device and to the vendor server, right? So that's the deal today. How can a company, a small company, we are a small company like under 50 people, how can you get involved into this world of IoT? Of course, you can start running around trying to learn all these protocols and which one to pick. And as many speakers suggest, use different hardware toolkits and start building for Raspberry, for Arduino and everything. I am a Java developer, so of course in our world these devices are pretty popular. You can embed Java in there and so on. But again, getting into the hardware, it's not our thing, so we wanted to integrate in our business process something that is already there. Some device that somebody produced and they know how it works, and we want to get into the software of that device. So we don't want to use any expensive cloud-based platforms that exist. Some people try to build their solution around the Salesforce or anything else. We don't want to go that route. We want something inexpensive and simple. So we want to create custom-made solutions for our application. Again, now I'm talking as a product company. As a product company, I want to see what can I put in there. And when we started to look at our insurance application and what can we improve for insurance agents who are going door-to-door selling insurance. And many mistakes are caused by the manual entry. So if a person makes a mistake, it eventually will be a problem. This summer we had a big news that they found a lot of data problems with Obamacare and so on. Why? manual data entry. So we want to eliminate this if possible, if we can put a device that will automatically do some measurements. And enterprise IoT is, in our opinion, is about automation of collecting and processing data required in your business workflow. So what we are trying to do, we are trying, as I said, to integrate the devices and use existing software, open source solution, nothing proprietary, and still use the devices. Standard-based layer, basically. Thing-oriented middleware, if you want to call it this way. So if we can write an application that will be in the middle between the device and their server, obviously we can add our business to the device, we can put it in our business workflow, and we can collect data. We can accumulate data, we can do some statistics and everything. If we can be in the middle. The question is, can we be in the middle? Will the vendor of a device allow us to be in the middle? Typically, yes. Typically, yes. And I'll show you our specific case. Again, it can be anything, but in our case, this is a form that an insurance agent is supposed to fill out when they are filling out the application for the potential insurer applicant. As you can see in this form, there are different fields, in particular weight, right, and blood pressure. So they need to take measurements. And they need to write it down in the form, if everything is manual. So basically, these are two fields that we targeted. We wanted to see if we can do this automatically. So now think about it. We have an application that runs successfully, that generates PDFs already, right? So what is missing? The data is missing. We want to make sure that these data for two fields will magically come up in our PDF form without manual entry. That's the goal. And now I'll explain you how we approach it and how you can do something like this as well in your business workflow. So let's take a look at the typical workflow of a device. I took a Fitbit wearable that I had before, and Fitbit is a pretty popular company. So when you are buying this wearable device to count how many miles you walked during a day and so on, you can record your measurements in different ways. One of the ways is to work through the phone or tablet, right? So if you have a device in your hand, on your arm, or wherever, and you have a Bluetooth, right? Bluetooth talks to your phone or tablet. Then the phone, if it's online, the phone can go and talk to the Fitbit server, fitbit.com. Given the fact that you have an account over there, it will record and log in your measurements over there. Then you can use the website and see how many, see the statistics, how many miles you went, and so on. The other choice is if you don't want to go through a smartphone, you can still have your wearable in your hand. And this is a dongle, and you can put it in the USB port of your computer. And the thing will talk to your computer. Computer is online, hence it can talk to fitbit.com. Again, it could be any vendor. So that's a simple case. Consumers are talking to their vendor servers. We are not here anywhere yet as a software developers. Which protocols they use? I don't know. Do I care? Do you care when you buy a device? No. Do I want to know? No. I don't want to know. That's the thing that I want to, that's the message I want to send across. I don't want to worry about the protocols. What do I know as a developer? I know standard technologies that are pretty popular, and lots of people know them, lots of developers know them. I want to leverage these skills in our process. So what do we use to integrate, to get into this process? We use RESTful web services. You probably know what it is. Authentication, OAuth authentication we use to make sure that you are who you say you are and you have rights to do what you say you want. WebSocket protocol. WebSocket protocol is a standard, HTML5 standard, which is I spent some time on that, which changes the way of communicating. Regular HTTP is a request-response base. I send you a request, give me something back. While WebSockets, it's a full duplex socket when the data go back and forth at the same time, and there is no request and there is no overhead, literally. I'll spend maybe a couple of more time on, or more minutes on that a bit later. JSON data format, everybody's using JSON, so how the client communicates with the server, using the JSON structure. Java servers, it's our case, we use Java servers, but it doesn't have to be. If you are a .NET guy or Python, it's not important. As long as you can work with these technologies, what software do you use for the server is not important. And HTML, JavaScript for the front end, this is what we use. All these technologies we use, and this is a book for engineers, myself included. It was published by O'Reilly, and it's funny if anybody wants. I'll be signing books. They are giving away 25 copies for free if anybody wants to get it. So we are using all these technologies already. Now let's talk about the devices. Which devices we are considering to give our, not to give, to incorporate into insurance agents workflow. So on the left you see a blood pressure monitor. And I got it here as well. That's the one. It's a wireless blood pressure monitor that can talk to your smartphone. That and this, I'll show it to you actually now in action. The smartphone has an application that illustrates the measurement of your blood pressure, and the smartphones talk to their server, And we want to make sure that our agent carries these things and can measure the blood pressure of whoever wants to get insured. The second thing, there are plenty of different vendors for scale, for weight measurement, Wi-Fi based. We are using this one from Fitbit. They call it ARIA. That's the one. That's the device. Again, imagine that an insurance agent who is on the road, he has these devices. He comes over to a house and says, I want to measure your weight and blood pressure. And again, we want to automate the process of including the data into our application. How this can go? Let's go step by step through the whole workflow. And again, you think software. So we need to create a front end. We need some front-end application for the insurance agent. If you remember that PDF form, medical examiner form, that's the one that's supposed to be filled in, right? So assume that we are there. So there is a field on that form to enter weight. We don't want to enter it manually. We want it to be populated automatically. So what the vendors of these devices usually offer you? They usually offer you some API. Typically, it's a REST API. They say if you are a developer, if you want to write code and get access to some measurement of some sort, this is an API. I'll explain you how the process works, but you can write a program if you know REST API, that will make request. Of course, it has to be authorized. That will make request to the vendor's server and get the data for a particular measurement. So you need to know HTTP REST API published by a vendor. And it's not a secret. They are happy, of course. They are happy to show how they work with their devices. The more people use them, the better it is for them. Now, I want to put my server in the middle of this process. So I want my server to make requests. For example, Fitbit.com is a producer of the scale. I want to make a request asking, give me the latest measurement of weight. Whose weight, by the way? And over here, we are changing a little bit the process. They created this device assuming that people will buy it and they will measure their weight at home. In our case, it's a bit different. But we will use an account, and we will give this account and the scale to an insurance agent. An insurance agent will go to different places. Who cares if it's not his weight? He can measure 10, 15 different people, but they all will go on his account. Why? Because his account is authorized. We authorize an account per device, and this device can be given to a user of your application. So technically, that account agent, if he would go to the Fitbit.com and check the weight, it would be 200 pounds, 100 pounds, 150, and so on. Why? Because these are different people. It's not his. So that's the point. So what do we do? When we decided to use these particular devices, we went to their websites and decided to see what do we have at hand as a software developers, right? So we see that Fitbit.com offers you HTTP REST API, and you can do either polling, like every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, do I have anything, do I have anything, do I have anything? Our server polls the Fitbit server. Maybe yes, maybe no. Or they also offer PubSub, publish subscribe model. So if we have something, then we can push the data to our application. Now, the part on the left is completely ours, controlled by us. We created the front end. We have our server. Our server gets the data, and using WebSocket, we push it to our application as soon as the data comes in. Now, let's say we will take another device, a second one. Like in this case, it was this blood pressure monitor from absolutely different vendor. So we went to their website and started to see what do you have, what do you offer for developers, what API. Same story. Typically, you'll find the REST API and some kind of authorization. I'll talk about authorization in a couple of minutes. So they say this is how you work, and this is how you write calls to our server. So it's the same story. We create an account with that for that device. It's going to be reused by the agent who is traveling. And the same story. So our server will be polling. So when we will do that? When an agent enters some, the agent has a schedule, he enters the house, he logs into our application, right? So it means that, yes, it's time to get some data because some measurements are about to happen. So now we have what? We have two servers and our server in the middle, and our server makes REST calls to different vendors saying, do you have something for me? Do you have something for me? If yes, so the data that come from iHealth server will be pushed to the field blood pressure, and the data that come from the Fitbit server will go to the weight field. Do you have any questions so far? Hmm?
The reason the right side is because you don't want to deal with capturing the data directly from the sensor?
Oh, of course. I cannot. Of course, I don't want an agent to log in and manually take the measurement and enter to our application. The whole idea is that the application, that the data should be arriving from the central server of the vendor, but they should wind up in our application. I don't want to do anything manually, other than putting this sleeve on the arm.
You still have to correlate that data for your client upstream, the insurance company, to that patient.
Why would I need to correlate? It is a patient. So I'll show you. When I come to a house, I enter the name of the patient, and then I register the device. I press the button start. So it is coming to a particular applicant, so to speak. So there is a correlation. Besides that, an agent can see only so many people. So if I have an appointment at 3 o'clock at this particular address, so we know who the person is. Plus, the agent enters the name.
So what's the advantage of going by this route versus just taking it from the scale directly?
The scale, you don't take. When I look at the scale, look at the weight of a person, first of all, I can make a mistake. Second thing is that the person can tell me, you know what, I am a little overweight. Can you please put like 20 pounds less, because I will get a better rate. In our case, in the automated case, the agent has no way of that. So it is what it is. Obviously, there always is a way to cheat, but let's say we want to eliminate it or make it a minimum. Now, how do we go about authorization? What is important that I don't get a weight of a person who doesn't want me to see his or her weight. So we are using something that is called OAuth authentication, not because we decided to do so. Typically, a vendor will tell us how to do authentication. What do we need to have as an application to be allowed to get the data from their servers? And they say you have to register your application, which we do. So we went to each vendor and we register our application with Fitbit, for example. For that, Fitbit sent us a secret, a special secret that is used as a part of so-called OAuth token. A secret, and that secret is combined with a login with each vendor. Then this is how we know that the guy is who he says he is. So you have to, as a software developer, you have to register your application with a device vendor, and you will get from them the secret key. What is authentication? How authentication usually works? I don't know, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but I will do it real quick. OAuth authentication. Probably you ran into a situation, you go to a site and they give you a message saying, please authenticate yourself through your Google account or through your Facebook account and so on. And this is exactly where the OAuth is taking place. What is OAuth? Like in this example, it's games that are very popular, right? Candy Crush. And if you want to log in, you can log in through, they offer you to log in through some other site that you already have, through your public profile. So what is this OAuth authorization about? The idea is that you want to use a third-party server for authorization, but you don't want to give away all the information about yourself. So if you have a Facebook account, you have a login ID and a password, and you want to use it to authorize with Candy Crush game, in this case, you don't want that. You don't want the Candy Crush creators know your ID and password on Facebook. You don't want them to post for you anything, right? So you want to have access, but the access should be limited. A pretty popular analogy for OAuth is the car. You have this key for the glove compartment. When you give it to a valet, so you can give them, you can lock the glove compartment, but they can still drive the car. So you want to give a limited access to your account. You don't want to disclose the password and IDs. So now I want to go step by step how we went about this authorization. I say my company, it's our company, of course, it's our application. So what steps do you need to take with a device vendor to be able to work with them? So we need to build an application, of course, using their API, the vendor's API. Now, our company needs to register with that vendor server and receive an ID and a secret key from a vendor. The thing owner opens the application and logs into the vendor site. The thing owner is, in my case, an agent, insurance agent, whoever carries the device. He needs to log on to their account. Again, I have only one account because an agent reuses this one and only account for different measurements. So when the agent is logged on to the vendor's server, so the agent receives a temporary credentials and special token, authorization token or OAuth token, to authorize the application. And after that, the vendor redirects the user to my application. This is also important. When you will be applying with the vendor saying, I created this beautiful application, and they will give you a secret, you also need to provide what do the vendor need to do if the login is correct. Then you provide the URL for your application. So the login is fine, and then the control will be redirected to your application by the vendor. And that's also, my application uses this token that consists of a secret and additional information about the user. From now on, this token is going back and forth, and this is as secure as any OAuth-based site is. So that's how the process works. Do you have questions so far? Yeah. No? All right. So So let's move on. So a couple of things. Do you want me to spend, I can spend a couple of minutes talking about WebSockets, or you are familiar with that? You want me to do this? Yes, some people see it. All right, so what's the big idea? First of all, I told you that the HTTP is request response based. That's it's like a half duplex, we call it. It's like a narrow bridge. Cars can go only either this way or the other way. We cannot reuse connection for two-way transportation. So that's one thing. Second thing, what's bad about HTTP? Huge overhead. When you want to request a little piece of data, in our case, we need to request only like small numbers for weight or blood pressure. The request would be wrapped into additional 200-300 bytes for HTTP headers. The response will also, a little number will be wrapped inside the HTTP response. Again, 200-300 of extra bytes going over the network. In case of WebSockets, the overhead is just 2 bytes. So there's no need to do this. And again, the way it works, first the request is done using HTTP, then the protocol gets upgraded, and after that, it's a pure, basically socket-based connection over the port 80 or 443. The rest is much, much faster. So plus, you can do a data push. Data push from the server means the client doesn't have to request the data. The server can push the data to the client over the WebSocket connection whenever the data arrives. So basically what we use in our application, RESTful API, HTTP JavaScript for the front end, and WebSocket for the data push. That's all. Everything is standard. There's no proprietary things to do. Security it's as secure, as I said, as OAuth is. So we are not adding anything, we are not removing anything. If you can get through the OAuth and log in, that's fine. Then you can use our application. All right, so finally I will do a demo. I'll do a quick demo now. What I will do, I'll show you, I will measure the pressure. I can measure mine, I can measure someone's, if anybody wants. And I'll show you, my goal is to show you, this is a simple page. This is our page. I will register a device. I will measure the blood pressure. And the goal is to see the result over here. So what will happen, or what should happen if everything works fine, the data from this sleeve over the internet, I will be using the application provided by the vendor. So this application will connect to their server and will send the data from this device to their server. So if I wouldn't be demoing you our application, so that's a typical workflow, right? So the user can go and log on to their site and see their blood pressure. But I want that blood pressure from their server, go to our application and be displayed in our screen. This is our screen. Of course, this is not their screen. That's the idea. So now I will try to do this air server thing so you can see my iPhone. But first, let me do this. What I will need to do, I will need to register my devices, right? So again, who am I now? Now I am an agent. I am an insurance agent who came to somebody and said, I want to measure your blood pressure. So I authorize a device. In this case, is iHealth, right? So iHealth is that. Why am I unable to? Let me connect. Let me do it again. All right. So iHealth, it's their screen. I'm logging into their application. So I need to obviously to be authorized user of that device. So it's register. Let me just in case register the scale as well, just in case. I don't know if I'll be showing you the scale. So I happen to have more than one device. Again, these are gone. One is stolen, one is eaten. All right, so these are right. I probably was logged on to their site. I'm saying I want to do automatic measurements, not a manual entry. Manual entry is like a backdoor still. So if I would be visiting somebody, I would be entering the name of the applicant over here. So this is the link that the gentleman asked me, how would I link the measurement to a person? I would enter Mary Lou over here, right? And I will select the device below. I'm using this blood pressure monitor. Maybe I will use this as well. So I register the devices. Let me see if I can show you my iPhone. I will allow mirroring. It doesn't show, but I will put it on my arm. I've been showing this demo a couple of times. Usually I have high blood pressure when I am on the stage. I even talked to my doctor. She said you are stressed when you are on the stage and everything. So. I don't know why you don't see my iPhone. You are supposed to see it. Anyway, so I will show it to you. It's not that far. You will see it anyway. So I'm starting their application, a little one, and I will hit the button Start over here. It's their application that will measure, that will start measuring. So it started. Can you hear that? Oh, you don't see it over here, but at least look at this thing. It starts pumping up the sleeve. When it's done, the measurement is supposed to go to the vendor server, and our application keeps polling the data from their server using some intervals. And when the data is ready over there, they will be pushing the data on this screen. So ideally, if everything works fine, I am supposed to see, wow, see, 190 by 116. So I'm supposed to be dead by now. So in that health blood pressure monitor, the field that says waiting for data, you're supposed to see the data over there. So if you will see the data in maybe 10, 20 seconds, then it means, yep, then it means it works. So the whole process that I explained you, the signal went from this device to the vendor server. Our application was pulling the data. When the data was available, it pushed the data to the screen. Now let me see if this guy works. I will step on the scales. Luckily, my weight doesn't change during the presentation. So I will see if this thing works. So I will step on the scale now. You won't see the result, but I will tell you, and you're going to have to trust me that I won't lie. It says step off. Thinking. The screen says thinking. Now it'll synchronize the weight with their 180 pounds, 0.7. So now the signal goes to the vendor's server, and hopefully it'll be there soon. So at the bottom field you will see the 180. So now it says it's trying to synchronize. Yeah, it's synchronized. So the weight is supposedly over there on the server. Yep, see that? 180 pounds and 0.7. So it is a miracle, right? Which I demonstrated you just now. So we integrated somebody else's devices into our specific workflow. And if we can do it, so can you. I believe this would conclude my presentation. Let me see. Yeah, these are some links. By the way, we just opened up the access to the beta site, easy.insure. If you want to find the life insurance agents in your area and see the ratings and everything, so that's the site to go. All the information is there. So do you have any questions or concerns?
The demo is interesting. Thanks for the demo. But I have an edge case in my mind. So let's say there's a line of people lining here and we need to measure the weight.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's using the same account for the Fitbit, is it possible the order gets messed up since people are keeping measuring the weight?
Well, they are not faster than you are entering their names, right? The person who come, if there is a line of people, I will enter the name of the person, and then I will do measurement, right?
Filling out the form defines the session.
Yeah, technically, right. So after this is done, by the way, in a real situation, we would generate the PDF with the rest of the data that is coming from our system, plus these two fields, and then the next guy can come into the office. Any other questions? Again, I'm not saying that this is the way to do everything in IoT with consumer devices. In our particular case, when you want to integrate existing device into your workflow, this is a pretty workable solution. Unless you cannot find a device that fits your needs, then you need to go to the hardware and everything. We don't. Any other questions? No? All right, guys, so I have one copy of the book. I will give it to this gentleman over there for asking interesting questions. It's for you, right? So you can get a free book from us. And we describe WebSockets and REST API, so now you can start working on that. All right, thank you very much for coming.